Have you ever wondered why a woman can walk away from a truly good man and act like she doesn't feel a single ounce of regret? It's a cold, confusing feeling when the person you protected and loved just erases you like you were never there. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button right now. In those early days, she's usually convinced she made the perfect choice. She tells herself that she deserves something better, something more alpha, or someone who provides more of a thrill. You were the man who gave her everything, your loyalty, your time, and your protection, and now you're left wondering how she could just flip a switch. But here's the secret. She hasn't actually forgotten you. She's just burying you deep because, in her heart, she knows she walked away from something real. But here is the crazy part that most guys never realize until it's too late. The regret always starts. It just doesn't happen when you think it would. A woman doesn't usually feel the loss right after the split because her ego is working overtime to protect her. She needs to believe her decision was right, so she goes out, she flirts, and she posts photos looking like she's glowing up. But what she's really doing is fighting the silence, where your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. She begins to remember how calm she felt around you and how your energy grounded her whenever things got chaotic. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The first stage of her regret is very quiet. It usually happens late at night when she's scrolling through her phone and sees your name in her old messages. It isn't full-blown guilt yet. It's more like a deep sense of confusion. She wonders if she was actually the problem, but her pride quickly tells her that you just weren't the one. However, that prideful voice gets weaker every single week because she knows she walked away from a man who genuinely cared. Before we go any deeper into how this realization grows, make sure to hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss our next video. As time passes, she starts to see that those exciting men often come with a lot of drama, ego, and inconsistency. This is when her brain starts the comparison game. Once a woman has experienced true peace with a man, every storm she encounters after that feels completely unbearable. This is the beginning of her silent downfall, the slow, haunting realization that she didn't just lose a guy, she lost her emotional anchor. Regret doesn't hit like a thunderstorm, it creeps in like a shadow. At first, she won't admit it. She'll distract herself with new faces and fake confidence, telling her friends that leaving you was empowering. But when the nights get long and the silence gets heavier, something inside her starts whispering the truth. She misses the person she was when you were in her life. You see, women don't just fall for men, they fall for how they feel around a man. You gave her stability when her world was loud. You gave her a sense of calm when her emotions were screaming. No matter how far she runs, she will never forget that. But here is the deepest part. When she took you for granted, she wasn't always trying to hurt you. She was testing your boundaries. It's part of the female psyche to push away the very thing they crave just to see if it will chase them. It's about control and emotional curiosity. But when the man finally stops chasing, when he becomes quiet, focused, and detached, that is when reality hits her like a wave. The man she thought would always be there is gone. Which part of this surprised you the most? Drop a comment below and let's talk. The attention she thought would never end suddenly vanishes, and that is the exact second the real regret starts to sink in. You see, she isn't just missing you as a person right now. She is missing the way she looked in your eyes and the way you made her feel important, loved, and truly special. And here's the scariest part. She can't get that specific feeling from anyone else. A man who truly loves with his whole heart leaves a mark on a woman that a random hookup or a shallow connection can never replace. Once she realizes that this kind of loyalty doesn't come around twice, she starts playing back every single memory and every moment she used to ignore. If you're finding this helpful so far, do me a quick favor and smash that like button. It really helps the video reach more people. But here's the crazy part that most guys don't notice. She starts quietly stalking your profile. She won't like a single post, but believe me, she is watching every move you make. She is desperate to know if you've moved on or if there is someone new getting that version of you she was too blind to appreciate. That thought burns her ego from the inside out. Regret isn't just about missing you, it's about the painful realization that she lost a man who would have never given up on her. That is when her pride finally starts to crack, and the emotions she tried so hard to hide start clawing their way back to the surface. Now, this is where the psychology turns a bit dark. When a woman starts to feel that deep regret, she isn't going to just come out and tell you. Her pride won't let her be that open or honest. Instead, she will try to reach out in indirect ways. Maybe she sends a casual text like, "Hey, just checking in." Or she reacts to your story with a simple emoji. It looks totally innocent, but it's really a test. She is trying to see if that emotional door she once slammed shut is still unlocked for her. Most men fail this test immediately. They rush back and reply the second they see her name. They are still looking for closure, or even worse, they still want her to tell them they are good enough. But here is the truth you were never told. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell right now so you don't miss the next part of this breakdown. You won't believe what happens next. When a woman regrets losing you, it doesn't always mean she is ready to value you. Sometimes she just misses the feeling of being wanted by you. When you give her that attention too easily, you just prove her old belief right, that you'll always be there waiting for her. That is usually when she walks away again, even faster than the first time. So, what should you do? Absolutely nothing. Silence is your real power here. Distance is your best weapon. The same silence that used to drive you crazy is now going to drive her deeper into her own head. When a man finally detaches, he triggers something in a woman that very few people understand, a deep emotional reflection. She starts replaying every single time she disrespected you or ignored your value. She starts seeing your kindness not as a weakness, but as a strength she was too foolish to keep. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. She starts to notice how other men just don't offer what you did. She sees how they talk a big game but don't actually care, or how they act confident but have no real depth. Suddenly, all the small things she used to ignore about you become the most valuable things in her mind. But here is the real sting. She can't fix what has already happened. She can't go back to the moment before she pushed you away. She can't take back the cold words, the distance, or the ego that made her think you'd never leave. That is when regret turns into a deep longing, and that longing turns into emotional pain. Deep down, she knows she lost something rare and real. The moment she realizes you are truly out of reach, her own mind becomes her punishment. When a woman realizes she can't get to you anymore, her world starts to fall apart in ways you'll never see. On the outside, she'll still smile and post pictures to look like she's living her best life, but the truth is much different. Which part of this surprised you the most? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Behind that fake smile, her head is spinning with what ifs, and the question she's asking herself will haunt her every single night. If you're finding this helpful so far, definitely smash that like button. She starts asking herself, what if I was just a bit more patient? Or, what if I hadn't compared him to someone else? She wonders why she walked away so easily. These thoughts keep her up in every quiet moment because the female psyche is built for emotional connection. When she loses the one man who actually made her feel safe, her brain just won't let her forget it. She starts turning your memories into a highlight reel. Every little thing you did, stuff she barely noticed before now, plays in her mind like a movie she wishes she could rewind. She remembers how you listened without judging her and how your presence felt solid when her whole life was falling apart. But wait, here's the crazy part. She starts replaying those last arguments too. For the first time, she sees how unfair she was and how much she projected her own insecurities onto you. That realization cuts deep because it's not just regret, it's pure shame. You see, a woman's ego protects her during the breakup, but her emotions come back to haunt her later on. Once that freedom feeling wears off, the reality sets in. No one loves her the way you did, and no one cares with that same depth. Nobody stays calm in the face of her chaos like you did. That's when she starts reaching back into the past, trying to bring back something that's already gone. If you're finding this relatable so far, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Now, this is where it gets interesting. She might post a photo just to get your attention or ask mutual friends how you're doing. She's not just looking for love, she's looking for redemption. The irony is huge. The second you stopped trying to fix her, she finally saw her own brokenness. The moment you stopped explaining your worth, she finally began to feel it. Women only start feeling that deep regret when they realize a man's silence isn't weakness, it's finality. The guy she once overlooked has now evolved way beyond her reach. She'll never say it out loud, but in her heart, she knows she didn't just lose you. She lost the version of herself that only existed when you loved her. This is the part most guys never see, the quiet breakdown behind her confident posts. When a woman truly regrets losing a good man, it doesn't look like a movie scene. It happens in the quiet moments of a normal day. She'll be sitting there and suddenly remember how safe it felt just to be near you. She'll start comparing every new guy she meets to you, even if she tells everyone she's moved on. She starts to realize that no matter how many guys compliment her, none of those words mean as much as yours did. But you won't believe what happens next. The truth starts to sink in. She totally underestimated the man who loved her for who she was, and that pain is way deeper than a normal heartbreak. It's like she lost part of her identity. You weren't just some guy she dated, you were the mirror that showed her her own softness, her better self. Without you, she has to face a scary truth. She pushed away the only person who really saw her, and now she's surrounded by people who only see the act she puts on. In psychology, they call this emotional displacement. Her regret turns inward and changes how she sees love. She starts doubting her own choices and her own worth. When a woman loses a man who truly cared, she doesn't just lose a relationship. She loses a sense of safety that she might never find again. She tries to find that same peace in other places, new faces, late-night parties, or burying herself in her work, but nothing seems to fill that void. That's because true regret isn't just about missing a person. It's the painful realization that what she thought was replaceable was actually a once-in-a-lifetime soul. If you're finding value in this so far, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear this. Now, this is exactly why so many women try to come back months or even years later. It's not always because they suddenly want the man back, but because they never found that specific feeling again with anyone else. They want to see if the door is still slightly open, just to feel that safety one more time. But here's the crazy part. By the time she finally circles back, it's usually way too late. The man she once took for granted hasn't been sitting around waiting. He's grown emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. He isn't the same guy she walked away from. He's stronger, tougher, and more grounded, and that is the moment that truly breaks her. It's not just your absence that hurts, it's your evolution. Watching the man she once dismissed become the exact man every other woman is now chasing after. By the time her regret fully matures, something permanent and irreversible happens. She finally sees you for who you really were, but now you're miles out of her reach. This is where it gets really interesting, though. In her mind, she starts to rewrite the entire story of your relationship. She begins to remember how incredibly patient you were when she was being unpredictable. She remembers how you stayed calm while she was drowning in her own emotions, and how you actually listened when everyone else was just judging her. She misses how your presence kept her steady and how your silence used to feel like a safe harbor, not a cold wall. But now that silence feels like a heavy punishment she can't escape. That is the sad poetry of regret. It only shows up when change is no longer possible. Before we move on to the truth about why men stop begging, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a video. You see, a woman might move on with her life physically, but emotionally, a part of her stays stuck in the past, trapped in the memory of the man she didn't appreciate. Every time she meets someone new, she's going to unconsciously measure them against you. She'll compare their words, their energy, and especially their patience to yours. And the truth is, none of them will ever quite measure up. When she realizes that, she won't even be mad at you anymore. She'll be furious with herself. Because here is the reality, men who love deeply don't beg for validation forever. They eventually withdraw, they rebuild their lives. They rise. You became the man she always dreamed of, but she had to lose you just to recognize it. Now, every time she sees your success, your calm, or your confidence, it's a stinging reminder that she was once a part of that journey and she threw it all away. That's the exact moment when regret turns into real grief, because she didn't just lose a lover, she lost her emotional home. But listen closely, because this is the most important part. Your story isn't about her anymore. Her regret is not your responsibility to carry. Her sense of loss is not a burden you need to fix. When a man finally learns his own worth, the entire balance of power shifts forever. The power returns to you. You stop chasing and you start attracting. You stop explaining yourself and you just start living. You stop waiting for her to realize your value because you've already realized it yourself. And that, my friend, is the ultimate revenge. Peace. When she eventually reaches out, hoping for the old version of you she could control, she's going to meet a man who has evolved way beyond her understanding. She'll find a man who doesn't need closure because he is the closure. So if you're that man right now, if you've been taken for granted or overlooked, remember this, she will regret it. It might not be today or tomorrow, but one day she'll look back and realize you were the one thing she should have never let go. And when that day comes, you'll just smile. Not out of bitterness, but because you're finally free. You've become everything she lost and everything she can never have again. Which part of this journey are you on right now? Drop a comment below and share this with someone who needs to hear.